Join me as I revisit one of the first cases ever covered on Bigfoot Beyond the Trail, dealing with my home state of New Hampshire. It's been about 2 years since I started the Bigfoot Beyond the Trail series, or Beyond the Trail as it was initially called for the Small Town Monsters YouTube channel. Since then, the series has grown to an incredible proportion, with nearly 10 million collective views. I say this not to boast, but to be thankful for being able to tell my stories in the way I would like them to be told, and to be well received by you, the viewers. In a topic unfortunately full of Bigfoot hoaxing and sensationalism by both major network shows and online sources, it can be a tough and frustrating landscape to navigate. I hope that by promoting some sort of critical thinking about this topic, we can hopefully further it and do away with some of the lunacy that seems to have gripped the topic in recent years. Be wary of those who claim to have all the answers, as many do. But don't take it from me, I'm just a guy you're watching on YouTube who researches Sasquatch. I don't expect you to believe me or even trust what I have to say. Please do your own research and come to your own conclusions about this and other topics. Don't let others think for you. Now with that said, let me get off my high horse and get back to the topic at hand, Bigfoot Beyond the Trail. With nearly 30 episodes out so far, each video is truly a film of its own. Some episodes are more boots on the ground research, while others focus more on eyewitness encounters or stories, and so forth. Throughout this time, the Bigfoot Beyond the Trail journey has taken me across North America to film and research about the Sasquatch topic in ways I only could have imagined previously. I've been to locations that couldn't be more different from each other. From the treacherous swamps of the south, to the hills of Appalachia in the east, to the rugged Rocky Mountains and thick temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest, I've seen some of the most incredible natural landscapes of North America and been able to share them with the world. We've interviewed so many amazing eyewitnesses, researchers, and interesting people alike. Throughout this journey, I've also done some crazy things like a doorless helicopter flight over the interior of Alaska, or horseback riding through the Colorado Rockies, or scouring through caves in West Virginia, and a lot more. We've had some strange encounters along the way that continue to intrigue me. While it has been nothing short of amazing to explore so many locations on my Sasquatch bucket list, given my wide geographic focus for this series, I felt at times like I've neglected my local areas, being northern New England. Throughout my involvement with the topic of Sasquatch and prior to the Bigfoot Beyond the Trail series, I've always had a focus on New Hampshire. To most of those outside of New England or the Northeast, New Hampshire is probably seen as a small and insignificant place. As one of the original 13 states of the United States, New Hampshire is a largely rural state with a population of just over 1.3 million. It is the second most forested state in the US, after neighboring Maine, so the habitat is mountainous, rugged, and heavily forested. Before we get into the specifics of the Granite State Bigfoot case, let's talk about my database of sightings for New Hampshire. This isn't something I've mentioned a lot previously in this series, as I've had my hands tied with so many other regions of North America we've visited. But since 2015, I've collected reports from New Hampshire that I've either been personally told about or had relayed to me from others. For example, I used to do library talks about Sasquatch, and there was always a story or two I might hear from the local area as a result. or I'd receive an interesting email with a story attached that I would follow up on. I would attempt to vet the person telling me the story and have them fill out a sighting report and then add it to my database if I deemed it credible. I haven't kept up with the database in over a year at this point, but as of the current standing, it sits at about 45 vetted reports, meaning reports I have found to be seemingly credible. I also currently have 26 unvetted reports as well. I just haven't had the time to sort through those quite yet. The reports are scattered across the state. While New Hampshire is mostly forested, the more populated areas of the state tend to be towards the middle and southern areas. It is not uncommon for many deer, bear, moose, and other woodland animals to live in close proximity to the more populated areas of New Hampshire. Sasquatch reports seem to mirror that in some ways throughout New England. The first ever Bigfoot Beyond the Trail episode involved an area of southern New Hampshire. That area, much like the rest of the state, is heavily wooded. I won't share the exact location, as I didn't in the original film either, but here's a recap of some of those events from a few years ago. About the summer of 2019, a friend of mine named Josh was coming up for a weekend camping, and we decided to check out some spots in New Hampshire. I'd only camped out in this area a few times many years prior to August of 2019, so Josh and I decided to head out there for the night, and we got there, we were starting to set up, it was getting dark, we were in this little clearing.
As we were, I think, milling around the campsite, I don't remember if it was you or I that heard it first, but we heard some stuff off in the woods, and we were shining some lights on, and I know at least I walked up, I think, a couple times, and got near the woods and just tried to see what we could see, if it was a little critter or something of that nature. That was our first thought, I think, that it was something like that, something very run-of-the-mill.
So we were in a sort of a circular, oval-shaped clearing surrounded by woods and trees on either side. So at one point we started hearing movement, just leaves crunching, something walking around. Not unusual for this area. There's a very healthy population of moose, deer, porcupine, fox, coyote, raccoon, all sorts of critters, rabbits, every sort of woodland critter in the Northeast you can imagine, lots of bears as well. But what would happen is from one direction we would hear the movement. We'd kind of focus on that area with our flashlights, and a couple times we would hear it coming from, say, behind us. We'd focus on that area, then we'd hear movement coming from diagonally across from us in the other direction. Then we'd hear it from another side. So it was almost like it was in three different areas, and every time we'd even get closer to the woods with our flashlights to try and maybe see what it was that was in there. All right, for the record, it's let's see, it is 10:05 right now. We're just chilling here with our campfire, and there's something right in there just breaking sticks or moving around or doing something. I don't know what it is.
Didn't pay much mind to it. I think for me, the reason that I didn't think anything of it at first is it seemed to happen, and then it kind of kept going for a while. It might have sort of quieted down, and then it'd be picked back up where we're, let's say we're back at the fire, and all of a sudden we hear some crunching again, and kind of perks our interest. But it was to the point where it was long enough where it's got to be nothing. It can't be, especially if you want to throw Bigfoot into it. There's no way, there's a Sasquatch walking around and it's hanging out here for that long. You think that something in that area would be gone. So I didn't give it much mind at first, and to be honest, if you hadn't gotten the audio that night on the recorder, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, in the tent, we may not even be talking about it as Bigfoot.
That night, as I usually do when I'm camping, I set up an audio recorder in my tent, and as we started to drift off to sleep, we heard some coyotes going off. Very normal for this area. I hear them all the time out there. I didn't actually review the audio from that night because the audio recorder had low battery and it was only about 1 bar of battery left, so I'm not sure how long that lasted. It turned out to only last about 45 minutes to an hour, and I didn't review that audio until months later because in the meantime, we had spent that weekend camping. We camped in this spot, and we actually went to a different area the second night, so we weren't in the same area. In conversations with some friends in the BFRO, I had discovered that they had done actually an investigation in an area not too far from this wooded area where we were camping and where I like to frequent. I had heard some stories, there's BFRO reports and other Bigfoot reports in towns and areas around there. I mean, New Hampshire has a fair amount of sightings in some of these areas, as I've discovered over the years. But it was after talking to Dave McCullough about this case, learning that geographically this area where they had done this case was virtually up the street, the closest practically property to this rural wooded area, which is conservation areas combined with a state forest, thousands of acres. I went and reviewed my audio, and it absolutely blew me away, because right after he drifted off to sleep, we started getting what sounded like wood knocks. Wood knocks, movements, things moving around. Now that could be anything, but one of the knocks was quite loud and really, not going to jump to the conclusion and say it was Sasquatch, but it sounded very intriguing. So I'll play that recording as well as some of the others. There's a lot more to the case itself, but be sure to check out the original film for those details. Now, looking back at my database, I have quite a few reports that come from both Hillsborough and Cheshire counties, both of which are in southern New Hampshire. I'm going to share a few of those encounters from those areas I find interesting. One comes in the form of a newspaper clipping from 1895, something that Bigfoot in Maine author Michelle Soulier managed to track down for me a few years ago. The article reads as follows, from the Boston Globe on October 22, 1895. The people of this section are excited over the rumor that a gorilla has been seen in the woods. Last Saturday, boys were out shooting squirrels. After firing, the boys were startled to see a great beast jump from the brush and disappear into the woods. Their story is vouched for by a reputable New Ipswich man. That evening, a young man who lives a short distance out of town, when near the Pleasant Street Cemetery, heard growling, followed by a noise in the brush. He saw something, and started for home as fast as his legs could carry him. On his arrival, there he fell prostrate on the floor from fright and exhaustion. A party of men with shotguns went in pursuit of the gorilla yesterday, but found no trace of it. An Ashby man informed the Globe correspondent that the gorilla was seen there a few evenings ago. I find this report quite intriguing due to the behavior described in the article. It differs from other alleged wild man accounts of old I've heard before, with far more violent or exaggerated behavior. The problem inherent with a lot of these older accounts is that they were prone to sensationalism and even outright lying just to sell newspapers. It was known as yellow journalism, and thus a lot of older articles like this should be taken with a grain of salt. There are, however, more modern accounts of Sasquatch-like creatures in southern New Hampshire, as is what fills the bulk of my database. One curious case I've done some research on from the 1970s took place in the small southern New Hampshire town of Marlborough. The original story was relayed to me by pre-internet researcher John Horrigan, who dubbed the case the Marlborough Monkey.
Hello, my name's John Horrigan, and this is an audio CD concerning alleged Bigfoot sightings in New Hampshire. In September of 1998, I met a gentleman by the name of David Smith from Keene, New Hampshire. He relayed about 24 Bigfoot stories, a lot of them conjecture, some of them with exquisite detail, some of them with actual dates and names. I could never reach Dave again after the spring of 1999. Myself, researcher Craig Heinzelman, and Dave Smith took a ride up to the Keene area along Route 12, Spofford, Sullivan, etc. And that was the last we saw Dave. What I do remember of Dave is he was a bald man, heavily tattooed. In fact, he had a tattooed mustache on his face. Seemed to be a nice guy. Might have gotten in trouble in Keene, New Hampshire. Never heard from again. The following are some of the stories that he relayed to me.
The Marlborough Monkey, circa 1975, Marlborough, New Hampshire. A couple who now reside in Swansea, New Hampshire, formerly lived in Marlborough. Well, while hiking through the Marlborough quarries one late afternoon, something moving caught their attention. Apparently something reddish-orange in color was moving amongst the rocks. The couple got a clean look at it. They described it as an orangutan. It seemed to be playing hide-and-seek with them as it was poking its head up and down in between the rocks. Then it stooped down for intermittent periods. It actually appeared to be having fun with the couple as it disappeared and reappeared sporadically. Well, this went on for about 15 minutes before the couple got spooked and left the area hastily. This game of now you see 'em, now you don't, with an orangutan of all things, had frightened them significantly. They accelerated their automobile from the forest. Incidentally, this couple also claims to have had UFO sightings. The Marlborough Man, August 1998, Marlborough, New Hampshire. A couple living along sandbanks claims that a bipedal creature has walked by their house numerous times. One time they saw it silhouetted in the moonlight. It ambled up a bank, across the ledge, and down into the quarries, about 500 yards behind their home. Oftentimes at night they would hear chattering or howling from deep within the woods behind their house. At first they attributed it to teenagers partying it up and having a beer blast in the woods. But teenagers didn't let out those types of yells. They sounded guttural, almost ape-like. On one occasion, they heard broken tree branches as if something were coming down through the woods down the ledge. Whatever it was, they assumed was a very large animal, as a human could not make that type of ruckus.
The case gets more interesting as there are further contemporary sightings and activity in the Marlborough area as well, including a few I have personally investigated and followed up on. The BFRO has a Class B vocalization report from 2003 that took place in Marlborough. The person described a very loud howling noise around midnight that was emanating from some nearby woods. In 2021, a number of encounters from the Marlborough area emerged online, including one where a man heard wood knocking while fishing at a small pond. This was fairly close to the area of the 2003 BFRO report. I was in email contact with this gentleman, and he additionally stated that his co-worker claimed to have seen a Sasquatch at the edge of the woodline of his rural residence in the same area of town. Another story relayed to me was of a delivery driver in town who saw a Sasquatch crossing the road late at night. I was not able to personally confirm the story, but it was interesting to hear nonetheless. Perhaps the most fascinating when it comes to the Marlborough monkey case was when I visited a property of a family in 2021. They claimed to be hearing strange knocking noises repetitively in their yard late at night throughout the season. I'm going to read my notes that were written right after the visit back in 2021. I spent some time with the property owners and spoke with them at length. The knocking began occurring in June of 2020, occurring 10 to 15 times over the course of the summer and into the fall. They would sleep with windows open and around 3 to 5 a.m. would hear 3 loud knocks from the woods. Originally it upset them as they believed it was somebody like a human messing around on their property. Both the husband and wife had heard it, but did not think Sasquatch initially. They are originally from Ohio, where the wife had heard of Bigfoot before and was the first to postulate maybe that was what was going on. The husband went from being frustrated and trying to figure out who it could be, even charging into the woods with a stick at one point, staying up late and sitting in the dark to see if they could figure out who was doing it, to being intrigued and curious about it. They indicated that the knocking began originally when some logging and construction had started in some nearby woods in June of 2020. All sounds had subsided by November of 2020. With Hillsborough and Cheshire counties being two of the more prominent areas of southern New Hampshire, I have a total of 14 reports between the two. Hillsborough County being one of the more populated areas of the state, in my view, it's the western half of the county towards Cheshire County that seems to be the most rural with the most conducive habitat. Any contemporary Sasquatch reports east of the Milford area I would have a hard time believing, simply due to the built-up nature of the area in recent decades. That's not to say that older reports from that area aren't credible. There certainly was a lot more woods in areas like Hollis and elsewhere in the past. I've heard stories of a strange rock-throwing incident in New Ipswich, as well as the story of a farm in the same town where it was claimed that Sasquatch-like creatures would emerge from a cave to consume blueberries from only the first row of blueberry bushes. While many of these stories are from secondhand sources, It is fascinating to hear specific details like that with the blueberry bushes. Stories of sightings occurring around blueberry picking have taken place on quite a few occasions across New England. Of all the reports in my database, there is one that is probably one of my favorites. I call it the Juggernaut Snowball Sasquatch Report. Here I am in Alaska. I'm going to read this report that I find interesting. It's one of my favorite reports from southern New Hampshire. It's one that I actually received via email a few years back. The county and the location were not listed, aside from it just being listed as southern New Hampshire. So the report reads as such. I don't typically talk about it beyond family and close friends. I have told a few folks about what we saw, but have since stopped due to peculiar looks and having a few folks laugh at me, so typically I keep it to myself. So if you need to reach out to me, use this email please. I'd rather not be known. Due to my work, I can't really come out about this, because I don't like to be looked at as unstable or crazy. In all honesty, I wish we had never seen it, because it is on my mind fairly often and bothers me somewhat, as I am very curious as to what the heck it is. So with that said, this is how it played out. My sister and I are 4 years apart, and at the time I was 10 and she was 14. It was February of 1988 at about dusk. It gets dark early in New Hampshire in the winter, so around 4:30 p.m. We lived on 15 acres with about 750 to 1,000 acres of town forest that abutted our property, very rural, with only a few houses on our dirt road. My father owned a plow truck and would plow our driveway and neighbors in the winter and would stack the snow into a large pile at the end of our cul-de-sac. My sister and I would make igloos. We had a big storm that dumped probably 3 feet of snow, and so the snow pile was large, 15 feet tall. As were the banks on the side of the road, 5 feet high or so. We had ridden our four-wheeler to the bottom of our long driveway and dug out the snowbank. I found a large snow boulder, not sure what you call it, and rolled it in the doorway of our igloo. We played for about 15 to 20 minutes inside, just horseplaying and telling jokes, waiting as our friend was supposed to come out and help, but never showed up. We were going to pop out to surprise him. He didn't show, so I popped my head out and pushed the snow boulder from the entrance and stood up to go to the back of the house with my sister behind me getting out as well. When I stood up about 25 feet away, I saw what I thought was a very heavily built person walking across the cul-de-sac from left to right. It was getting dark, but the snow on the ground made the figure very pronounced and easy to see. I thought for a minute maybe it was my friend or a neighbor, but the more I stared at it, the more I realized that the proportions were not normal. At this point, it had not seen me because I just had come out of the snowbank, and it probably would not have figured something like that would happen. It took me 3 to 4 more steps, and then it turned its body squarely at me. I could see at this point how large this thing was. I figured it had seen me at this point, and it stood still for about 10 seconds, then crouched slightly and began swaying side to side somewhat, then stopped. I didn't know what I was looking at, and both my sister and I couldn't move because we were so scared. The height was not very tall, about 6 feet. However, the arms were massive for the height, and it was about as wide as a pallet at the shoulders. A very strange-looking thing with not much of a neck. I was into comics then, and its shape reminded me of a short Juggernaut from Marvel Comics. No neck that I could see. If it had one, it was very stout. The arms went down to about the knee, and it was hunched over or crouched. They looked longer, but I would estimate at about the knee. The legs were not very long, kind of stumpy and thick-looking. I picked up a piece of hard snow and shouted at it something to the effect of, "Hey, quit playing around, jerk," hoping to elicit a response from a jokester in a big costume or something. I threw the snow at it, and the snow chunk went over its right shoulder. After doing that, it kind of slightly crouched rather quickly, then turned side on and began walking in the same direction it initially was walking. It got to the side of the bank on the road and just fluidly hopped up without breaking stride, and a few footfalls into the woods and it was gone, or I couldn't hear it walking anymore. It walked into the woods where there were not any homes, just acres and acres of town forest. It didn't make any noises or anything, just looked at my sister and I for about a minute total and went on about its business. So that's what I saw in a nutshell. I don't think I'll ever forget it. It made me really not want to be out much after dark. Those woods/hemlock forests are pretty dark even in the daytime up there. So anyway, there was my sighting. You were the first person outside of my close circle that has heard this. I figured that I should probably get it out there for people to hear. Maybe there can be some behavioral tidbits that can be taken from what I saw. I would love to see it be a non-taboo thing someday, so I can share my sighting without fear of ridicule. So there's the report in its entirety. I pretty much read it word for word. Just find it a very fascinating sighting. And, you know, probably the only sighting I'm aware of a snowball being thrown at a alleged Sasquatch. But I did find the fact that he mentioned it reminded him of the Juggernaut character from Marvel comic books. You know, being in the 80s, that would have been pretty relevant. I found that really intriguing that he likened it to that. You know, people typically jump to, gorilla, some kind of wild man type description, but he was relating it to something he knew of at the time. So, yeah, it's one of my favorites in my database. There's many others, of course. I could keep on going on the list, but, you know, I'm going to focus on the case kind of at hand.
Towards the end of the winter and into spring of 2023, I decided to focus on that original area from the Granite State Bigfoot case with some boots on the ground researching. I would be joined primarily by fellow researcher and hiker Brian Garvey and his dog Chewy, who have previously been featured on other Bigfoot Beyond the Trail videos and were involved in discovering that possible trackway just a little over a year ago. We went into that area for a few months in a row, starting in March for a scouting trip. This trip we were also joined by Chris, the property owner interviewed in the original Granite State Bigfoot case, about his ongoing activity. I'd not been back in this area for over a year at that point.
Smells so fresh and clean. This is the area where in 2020 I would come out here almost every day. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot.
That makes sense. Shorter, a little steeper.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll go that way. Follow the wise one.
Yeah. Got more rock walls here. These guys went up the hill up here. So yeah, I mean this area definitely, there's a lot of bear habitat. I mean there's lots of bears and moose and things that have been seen out here. Little cliff goes down there. So what do you think of this area, Brian? As a first timer, you hike a lot.
Intriguing, very intriguing. The area with the ponds, the marsh areas, you got everything in this area.
Got the high ground. I mean, we're on a cliff right now.
We're on high ground looking down. Really great. What a great area. I could see why you'd want to come here again and again. It's something I would love to camp here on a night and
we should definitely do it
and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so curious. I'm so curious about that tent site and staying there.
We'll literally, we can go out there after. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Got another hill that just goes up right up over there. And this area is just fantastic. This is interesting. I mean, we
might sleep here.
On the very top.
Film this just for the sake of documenting this. So let's try something. Let's try a little experiment. We'll see if it works or not. Oh, did I really not bring it? Come on. Oh no, it's here. Chewy, don't walk through there.
Chewy,
can you keep
him
here,
Bubba?
For me?
Yep, I can. Come here.
What are you doing?
Chewy.
I'm gonna see if there's any hair or anything.
Hey, Chewy, come. Stay.
I wonder who breaks all these little branches off.
I'm gonna put my mask on just so I don't contaminate anything.
Back. Stay.
We've got Chewy trying to run through here because he's a little rocket. Uh-oh. Let's get this on. Well, that's not great.
Stay.
Okay, so check it out. Moose or deer scat.
That'd be moose, I think. Yeah, I've seen stuff like this a bunch of times in the woods and I never remember what it was.
And I can't find any kind of hair or anything that I can tell. You'd imagine if something was laying here, whatever, even if it was a deer or a bear laying here, it would leave some kind of a hairs or something. I just don't see anything.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a weird little,
It is.
get up, come here, bed looking thing.
Come here.
Okay. I mean, this
But
could have been.
somebody broke these branches off.
Oh yeah, this could have been here from before winter. I mean, and the snow melted
don't
on
know.
it, so we don't know how old it is or anything. The snow just started melting, so unfortunately.
Although it looks like these branches are on top of the snow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So.
Yeah.
You can't. I'm looking for any kind of organic material, other than the branches and everything. I don't see anything really. Yeah, nothing. Well, whatever. Here we go, moving along the edge of this kind of cliff here. Very promising area.
Going there.
Got another fresh water source here.
Yeah.
Goes right through here. Under this little cliff up here. This amazing little overhang here.
Yeah.
So totally be a bear hangout.
Absolutely.
I mean, heck, we could hang out in here, Brian.
You could come here and need a tent.
Yep. It's a little wet because of the snow now. I don't see any impressions in here.
Oh yeah.
See anything, Chewy? What do you think, Brian?
This is great.
What? So Chewy's just, there's this big break up there, and Chewy's just staring at something. Oh, you know what it is? That's Porcupine right there.
Come here, Bubba. He's looking at it. Come here.
There's probably another entrance up there.
I'm curious.
That's what he was staring at. Yep. So there's what Chewy was staring at. Been pretty stripped here. I guess probably Porcupine. Now you can't see, won't go up there, but down here. Alright. This is kind of interesting. Oops. There's another, I mean, unless this is an area, wind tunnel maybe. Because you've got, because look, they're all in the same direction. You have a line of them.
Break. Look at
Yeah.
that one right there.
Yep. They're all broken in the same area. But so snow load. There was 36 inches of snow here, so this could have been from a recent storm. I mean, hard to say. Heavy snow, very heavy.
Yeah. Not a
Look at this tree
Yeah.
growing sideways out of the cliff. That is amazing. That is so cool to see. Brian and the cliff for perspective. Nice and soft, huh?
Yeah.
So we're here. We're gonna consider this a good scouting day. We're gonna come back here when a little bit more of the snow is melted and stay out and go to that ridge. I mean, I think that would be a perfect spot to go. Barred Owl saying hi.
saying bye.
So we're gonna head out. You know, it's still a little bit cold, just getting out of winter, but I think it'll be awesome heading back up to that spot and just hanging out there more often, right?
2 weeks.
Yep.
2 weeks.
What do you think, Chewy?
He's ready.
He's ready. He's a little pooped now,
He
but
is
he's
pooped.
he's good to go. right, so it's been a couple weeks since we've been out here last time. Since our last update we would have filmed would have been at the spot of my incident. Still lots of snow. We're back, like I said, a couple weeks later. There's virtually no snow on the ground, which is nice. But we still have pretty much no leaves out yet, which I think is great for visibility. We're gonna go up to that ridge that we found last time. We've got the thermals, we've got just kind of normal camping stuff, just see if anything happens. No one usually camps out here all that often, so I think maybe that'll produce some interest. I don't know. You seemed to like the area last time too, so
I think it's an interesting area. So especially on top of that hill type ridge line, you could just look down and see far. And I think with the therms,
oh yeah,
I think it'll be a fun night.
We've got Chewy here.
That's our
sixth sense. So yeah, it is still a little cold. I mean, it's in the 40s right now. It's supposed to get in the low 30s tonight. So I have some of the winter gear. So that's why we got the big packs out. But I'd say, we just go for it.
Yep.
Typical here, we have our classic New England stone wall in the middle of nowhere. This at some point, a couple hundred years ago, was somebody's farmland essentially. That's the story with all this stuff in New England, that it's all old farmland. And now it's habitat that support moose, black bear, bobcats, white-tailed deer, everything. And all these little crevices here, these are going to be porcupine dens and other critters. This stone wall goes right up into the rock cliff. How cool is that? What do you think, Chewy? Quite a bit of devastation here. Coming off the top of the cliff into big crazy mess here. So I just heard what sounded like a ruffed grouse, which is this bird that kind of makes this flapping kind of noise. It's like a buildup, and I just heard it as Ryan was walking up there. So that's kind of cool, knowing that they're in the area. Well, we made it up on the ridge. Got a little pond behind us here. Another ridge that goes up. So we're kind of layered. We're in a middle ridge that goes down, and there's one above us, so it's kind of a cool little area. That nest-looking thing we found is up over here.
That's right.
So right to the side of where we're going to camp, there's this whole big pile. Now most of the stuff looks like it fell out of the tree probably above us, but you can tell something has slept in here. See all this? That's all crushed down, and there are some piles of deer scat right here. So I'd guess there's most likely deer just sleeping in here. We got another hill up there, and that's even higher up than us.
Yeah.
That's another rock wall. The power lines are up behind that.
Okay.
So that's where I heard that wood knock. On the other side is that camp spot where I had some of that original stuff happen. Set up. Ryan's all set up here. How's it looking?
It's looking cozy.
That does look pretty cozy for you and the Chooster,
Me and the Chooster. My extra blanket. Huh? Got a fur blanket.
Yeah.
We've got our food bag. So we're just gonna hang it up in this tree because the bears are definitely out right now. We know for a fact they're out, so let's see if we can't get this up here.
think that's good enough.
Yeah.
Right. Now that we're all set up, we're gonna go explore a little bit, check out the ridge kind of on the other side of us, just see what's going on. The hill's up that way. Camp is right over this little ridge. So there are a lot of breaks on this hill. It could be, this is a hill, so we do maybe have a lot of damage.
Oh, the wind would have to come from that way to get that one.
There's another one
go
over
that
there.
way for that one.
Right where Chewy is?
Yeah. Oh, jeez, yeah.
That's a big one. Chewy! Oh yeah, look at these breaks.
Wow. This is a cool area.
More breaks. Look at these two.
Dude, that is weird.
I mean, there's just all of them.
It's weird because
And they're facing different directions now.
look at this one's facing that way.
Yeah, you're right.
This is, dude. Look, look at this area.
You'd be
if I
thick.
wanted to chill and stay hidden,
Yeah, you.
all this thick stuff around.
Yeah, no one's gonna
This is
see.
perfect. Look.
We're not one to make a mountain out of a molehill.
No, I know.
What do you like?
That is exactly what the bigger one looked like down there. The way it's
put your
kind
hand
of.
around it. Like show. Here, I'll go on this side. So that's like. You got the one right there, and that's one of these.
And it's bent. It's almost like
Yeah, it's one of
that's odd.
those intriguing kind of breaks.
Cool area, and the weather turned out really nice.
This spit us out right on the power lines.
Look at that.
And so we got views on that side. So by the way, Brian, up that way, up this power line to the left,
Yeah.
on the other side is where I experienced
The
wood
knock-
knock
the
sound.
knocks.
Yeah. A few years ago, back in 2020, the one I wish I had recorded. It's with my brother, but yeah, you can see. I mean, path of least resistance, right? That's the thing with New Hampshire. You know that there's sightings along power lines. That's why it's intriguing to see something like this in an area that I've had kind of experiences. The size of these big trees down.
Look at that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, what gets me about this habitat, like I was kind of saying about the moose, right? It's hard for me to try to imagine something living here huge year round, right?
I know.
But then you got moose that's almost
That's
1,200
huge.
pounds for a male. And something that would be arguably probably larger than even a potential Sasquatch, a moose.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get larger than that around here, so.
And loud. And very loud
And
walking through.
Yeah, and we're not seeing much. I mean, we know they're here. We've seen sign. I've encountered them out here before.
Claws.
Oh, yeah. Take those leaves out. It's possibly that it's bare. You can see going 1, 2. It's got the right shape. 3, 4. Could have been when it was really muddy after the initial snow melt and the impression has just stayed.
Yeah. Cool though.
Will we get a view?
Getting some sun rays, so that's. Wow.
Where I had heard the knock with my brother back in 2020 was up there, over that hill down. There's a swamp. That's where it literally sounded like something hit one of these metal poles, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like, and my brother agreed. I wish I had it recorded, but
And didn't you say one time you heard the knock, 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 and then like a tink?
yeah, that was up right over in there.
Wow.
I used to have a trail camera up there,
That-
and that's
no.
where I've seen moose. I used to have a trail camera up there, and I would get moose, and then that was when I did the knocks, and I have those sounds. It's all like one continuous area. I mean, basically,
Yeah.
and you just have the power line here that intersects it all. What does that look like?
I mean, it looks like a footprint.
Now check this out.
Look at that.
And I mean, look at that. That side, the back side was covered in dirt. So I mean, that's just another thing to be aware of when it comes to footprints.
Because then you look and it looks like, oh, I can almost see impressions when it's just the ridges on the.
Oh, there's the mid-tarsal break.
Yeah.
Well, there's your mid-tarsal break.
Yep. Ah, interesting.
Put it right back in there.
Yeah, that's a good learning lesson right there.
I saw it and I immediately stood out, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, let's find the truth.
Yeah.
We're seeing this kind
dude, put your foot near it. That's way bigger than you.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that one. Dude. I mean, this one is more in line, but
that is that's big. I'm a size 11.
Wow. Yeah, me too. What the heck? Hold on. Stay there. Just gonna look right here. I mean, you got.
Dude.
Look at this.
Dude, you can see.
Look at this. I mean, that's kind of weird.
That is weird, dude.
Since we don't have anything to cast, just for the sake of it, I'm gonna do a little something here. All right, let's check this out.
Oh my god.
Let's go polycam.
Hey, do you have that 3D thing?
This is what I'm doing here. All right, I got like a Buffalo Wild Wings card. Try it now. Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm doing a 3D scan, and it should give us something at least.
It's a big print. Yeah.
Because I mean,
Interesting enough to do
Again.
what we're doing.
again, like you're filming now, so
Yeah.
I mean that's a foot. It's bigger than mine for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then it goes here. That's your stride.
Wow.
And then if there's something over here, but what gets me is the discoloration.
Yes.
Like if you,
It's a wet looking color
yeah, and it's wet here. Like look where I just stepped, right? That's my footprint that I was putting there.
and it's
So
wet.
it's in there and it's wet. I mean, it's really hard to say, but we see so many other signs of critters around here. So it's hard to say, but it's interesting.
It's someone with a big foot that walked. If it's a footprint.
Yeah, something walked through here. We just walked the power lines, heading back to camp now.
That's a monster.
Weird footprint thing that we saw.
Yes. Oh wow. Wow.
Intriguing. Very intriguing.
Because of just because of the size.
Yep. What's this little trail in here that we found?
Nice on the second one. That's awesome.
Chewy up too. Chewy, you in there, bud? Hi, buddy. What's going on? What you doing? He's just hanging out in the tent for now. Brian went somewhere over there. So we're talking thermals here, Brian.
Yeah.
So you recently got the, let's see it, the AGM.
215, 256. T15, 256.
Right on, and then I've got here the
Is it the T10 160?
TM160.
TM160,
Now,
that's it.
just hold it out
Sure.
so you can see the lens difference. Yeah. So there's about what, like $200 price difference?
$200 price difference.
Yeah. I mean, they're both great, and I use that. Use the AGM for AGM, whatever. I use it for thermal surveillance. Obviously, then we have the Pulsar, which kind of is in a weight class of its own, but these are
Yeah.
both pretty good thermals. I mean, I would say personally, like something like this, I would absolutely get over a Flourish Scout.
Oh, absolutely. And the durability.
Got tripod mount on the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm gonna drop it again.
Yeah.
2 for 2.
Definitely worth it, especially if you're not going to be doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's a game changer, for sure.
Let's see if I turn this off.
Hey, Pop.
Get this to look in there. We've been just hanging out here in camp for now. Messing around with the thermals. What the hell just happened?
Dude, when you said what the hell, I'm thinking, I'm thinking
Keep your eyes on that thing. It's still going down the hill.
Oh, wow, dude.
I see it. It's right there.
No, Chewy. I'm so glad Chewy was in the tent, man.
Here, can you grab this for a second?
Yeah, sure. What do you need?
It's recording, but I've got it.
Yeah, I found that.
That's so cool. So this porcupine just walked literally right behind the tent. We didn't even realize it until he was close.
It's okay.
He's freaking out. Oh my God. You got your sound on that thing? Ready? Do you still see it?
No.
He must have gone over that hill. We go up the tree. I hear him. I hear it going down.
Oh, there it is.
You see it?
Oh, shadow. Oh, that's gonna call something.
Yeah.
Chewy, stop it.
Jeez, dude, that was crazy. That just, my God. So we were sitting there just quietly relaxing.
It was probably only 10 minutes we
were sitting quiet. Oh my God, hold on.
Like 10, 15 minutes.
We were just sitting relaxing for 10 minutes, and all of a sudden we hear these footsteps right outside the camp, and this porcupine was right there. I mean, he was so close. Chewy didn't even alarm us to him.
No,
He's freaking out now because we're over here. Dude, that was crazy. I got clear as day footage of him.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet, man. Picking him up on the trail, too.
Yeah, you got to see it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the tree he was behind right here. Put in perspective, there's Chewy in Brian's tent right there. I mean, we're talking 10 feet.
Yeah.
He was. I filmed him in between those
Yeah.
trees. You okay, Chewy? You okay, buddy?
He smells the sucker.
Yeah. You should have told us earlier, man. We didn't know. Big sixth sense help you were.
Yeah, what the heck, man? One more strike.
Overall, it's been a pretty quiet night for the most part. We're just listening, scanning with the thermals. We were talking around the fire. Fire's kind of died out now. Seeing a lot of other smaller critters, but I mean, those peepers are just so loud. Down past that cliff, off the ridge we're on. Hoping things get lively. See if we get anything. Oh, very quiet night overall.
Very quiet, yeah.
We're gonna settle in here. It's about in the kind of mid to low 30 degree range
Yep.
right now, so Hopefully we get woken up by something interesting.
Yeah, not too many
Stay up and listen
people
for a
hope
bit.
for that, but when you're doing this stuff, you hope.
All right, Chewy. See you later, buddy. We're heading out.
Yeah.
Very quiet out here. But it was cool. I mean, it's a cool area. That track
The
found was
the
interesting.
power line's very interesting. Beautiful area, those power lines.
It's a pretty wild area. See why something might want to hang out here at some point. And it just goes on and on. So there you have it. Another adventure. So we're going to head out, hike back, and take it from there.
Yep.
Well, we returned. It's now end of May.
End of May.
We're back in the same area.
A month later.
Month later. So we've been here, seen the snow in the spring, and now I guess right at the beginning of summer. Checking it out. We got the power line up here. Just how thick it is in here. I mean, look at this. Something could be hiding right in there. You wouldn't even know it. Nope. Oh boy. Chewy's off in front of us. Somewhere over there. This one is good for the GoPro. Classic New England stone walls.
Yep.
Oh, there's a porcupine in the tree. Yeah. There's two of them in the tree. Chewy. Hey, come here. Chewy, come here.
Hey.
Oh, God. So there's two porcupines in the tree. That's a close call.
So he must have chased.
Dude, look. Oh, my God. He's quilled up. That Chewy, you'd get a face full of...
You are one lucky bugger.
I think he's with the baby. Or I think it's with the baby. There's the other one. See the one? You see it on the camera?
Now look at that. See, it is picking itself up right now, firsthand. They're pulling themselves up.
I've got it on film. So this porcupine is proceeding to pull himself up with his arms into the tree.
That's cool to see two of them. Hey, Chewy.
That's that noise I heard. I thought it was Chewy.
That scratching.
I wasn't sure. I was like, what is Chewy doing? So there's the second one's higher up. Oh yeah, you can really see him or her.
Someone does.
Hey, Chewy! Chewy! Come here.
Come here.
Where is he?
Come here.
Chewy, what happened?
Hey. I think
Is he alright? What happened? Chewy.
he got quilled.
Oh no. Yeah, very unfortunate series of events here with Chewy getting a porcupine quill to the face. Just happened so quick. We were looking at these porcupines. He just ran off in a split second as we were trying to get him ready to get leashed. And we heard him yelp and we knew something was wrong, and then he came out with a face full of quills. So I know it happens, but just you got dogs out there, just keep them safe.
Following the incident, Chewy had all quills removed and made a full recovery. As I prepared to head to Alaska for much of the summer for research and filming, this was one of our last chances to hit the area before I left. With such an unfortunate ending to that investigation, this case still feels like it needs more added to it, as does New Hampshire in general. In future videos, I will try to draw further upon reports from my database, especially when it pertains to recent reports from areas of interest. If you have had a sighting or some type of encounter in the Granite State, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is aleks@smalltownmonsters.com, and I welcome new reports and will safeguard them and keep you anonymous. It's the raw data that interests me. Another venue is reporting it as a sighting to the Bigfoot Mapping Project, run by my buddy Scott, who does a fantastic job with the project overall. Going forward, I fully intend to focus more on the Northeast, especially the northern sections of New Hampshire. With legends such as the Wood Devils of the North Woods, there is certainly a lot of ground to cover. Keep your eyes on the horizon for Sasquatch coverage of the Northeast, unlike anything seen before.